Good evening and welcome to the second in a series of forums with the candidates for office for the November 7th elections that is being brought to you by Cayuga Community College and the Citizen. I'm your moderator, Guy Cosentino. On November 7th, voters throughout Cayuga County will get to go to the polls to vote for new members of the Cayuga County Legislature because the legislature will be reduced from 15 to 11 members starting on January 1st. With that, there are what we consider 6 competitive races, and we are bringing you the candidates for those races, continuing tonight with the 2nd Legislative District, and on Thursday we'll have the candidates for the 10th. Currently, Legislator Patty Ruffini is the incumbent in that seat. She is representing right now Mentz, Montezuma, and Troup, but the new district adds the town of Conquest in January. This is also the only race for the county legislature where I believe we have 2 individuals running against each other for this race. While the 11 districts are up, control of the legislature currently is in the hands of the Republicans with a coalition of conservatives and non-aligned members, but that could change depending on this year's elections. Representing the press today is Robert Harding, the political reporter for the Citizen. He is, as I mentioned in our last forum, taking over for Jeremy Boyer, who did this for years. Mr. Harding has covered these for at least the last 6 or 7 years, and so he's in front of the camera versus behind it doing the stories. So prior to taping, we drew lots and flipped a coin to see who would be giving their 2-minute opening statements. That order will be reversed at the end, but our candidates are sitting in the order of their opening statements. We do have Patty Ruffini, who is on the Republican line, and she is running against Benjamin Vitale, who is on the Democratic and Independent line. Mr. Harding can ask questions of either or both of the candidates if he chooses. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to their questions. Mr. Harding can ask follow-ups, and the candidates will also have time for their responses. We'll start with opening statements. Again, Patty Ruffini, who is the incumbent. She is on the Republican line. Welcome back to the studio, and we look forward to hearing your 2-minute opening.
Thank you. I'm Patty Ruffini. I am the current legislator for District 3, which will be changing to District 2 because of the redistricting. I got involved in this because there was a sense that our voices were not being heard in local government. And as I got into this, I saw that that really was the case. As I walked and talked to constituents, people in our community, I heard it more and more that there were things that were happening in our county that were not the way that they wanted it to go. Involvement is key, right? We need to be aware, which is something that I hadn't been. I had only involvement as a planning board chair for my local town of Troup. Other than that, I had been in corporate America rather than government. And I think I missed a lot of opportunity by not being more tuned in, attending meetings. And this is something that I strongly encourage everyone to do, especially the youth, to please pay attention to what's going on in your local government. Because what happens there impacts you 100%. I really do appreciate the opportunity to represent the folks in my community. I'm not too keen on the politicking part of it, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. I do appreciate the opportunity to continue to serve, and I look forward to being able to bring some projects to completion. And to continue to bring the voices of the people into the rooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator. We'll now hear from Mr. Vitale, who is on the Democratic and Independent lines. Mr. Vitale, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm Ben Vitale. I've lived in on our family farm all my life, so I've been a Cayuga County resident for my entire life. Currently, and all this time, our farm is in the towns of Troup, Montezuma, and Aurelius, so I pay plenty of taxes in all those towns, and plus I pay school taxes in 2 different school districts. So I know how it feels. And the important thing to me is that I've always worked to give back to our community. I've always been very involved in the community. For 22 years, I was the executive director of the Central New York Regional Market, where I had the opportunity to give back to Central New York as a whole. And that was very, very fulfilling. But all this time, I continue to work and maintain our family farm. And now that I'm retired from the market, I can spend more time working on that and working on giving back to the community in different ways, such as being back on the legislature. So that's one of the things that's always been important to me and will continue to be important to me to the very end. I always love working for the people, and I hope to continue that. Other than that, I'm here for the people, and I'm always available by phone call or whatever. So don't be afraid to give me a call anytime.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. So that our audience knows, we have a timekeeper, Nora, who's a third semester student here at Cayuga. She and the floor manager, Brianna, will be holding up signs that tell the candidates they have a minute and a half into their statements and that they need to stop at 2 minutes. We'll let them finish their statements, but we don't want them to do soliloquies. So we'll now turn to Robert Harding. Mr. Harding, welcome back to the studio. Delighted to have you here. You're up.
Thank you, Guy. With redistricting, the makeup of District 2 has changed with the addition of with the town of Conquest. As if you're elected to the legislature, or re-elected in this case, how will you ensure that the entire district is represented in Auburn?
Okay, so we're going to go back and forth, and I should have said this at the beginning. First question will go to Mr. Vitale, and we'll go back and forth so that hopefully you'll both get a balance of starting each question first. So, Mr. Vitale, you have 2 minutes on the new district.
Great, thank you. Well, Conquest is very important to me. One of the things that's probably number one in Cayuga County is agriculture. And Conquest is very, very agricultural town. It's a large, spacious town with, it doesn't have a lot of tight-knit communities. There's a lot of farms out in that area. And so that's why I say it's really important to me, because if you look at the folks that are running for legislature this year, if I'm elected, I will be the only farmer on the legislature, and I think it's very, very important for agriculture to be represented, not only by people that are interested in agriculture, but somebody who's actually hands-on, doing it every day. What's interesting about Conquest is there's a lot of smaller farms out in Conquest, which are kind of more the size of my farm, but also we also have to take into consideration the big farms that are like in the southern part of the county, and you have to work with everybody involved. And so that's why I really, really think that it's important to concentrate on agriculture. It's important that agriculture is represented at the table, and by working with agriculture, we can save a lot of the other issues and resolve some of the other issues that are going on within the county. And the great thing about farmers is we always find a way to solve an issue or a problem or a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. Legislator, you'll have 2 minutes on this new addition to the district.
Thank you. The town of Conquest is a great town. When the redistricting was voted on and it was decided that that was going to be added to where I would potentially be working, I started attending the Conquest meetings as well. I attend town meetings. And in the town of Conquest, they have some concerns that are a little different than the other towns. They're in the forefront of solar fields, and this isn't something that they really appreciate. As Mr. Vitale had mentioned, this is agriculture, and the solar fields take away from agriculture. And this isn't something that is appreciated. One great thing about Conquest is they're very town-oriented. They're a great community. They are close-knit. They were very excited when they completed their comprehensive plan, so much so that Joni, the historian, had created a song in celebration of this great event. They're folks who need attention. Our rural communities need more attention. There's a lot of focus on the city. Understandably, there's about 30,000 people of the 70,000 in our county. But the rural communities cannot continue to be left off on their own accord, and that includes Conquest. They need attention just as much as the folks in the city do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
So both candidates mentioned agriculture in their last responses, so I did want to ask about the solar farm that's coming to the town of Conquest. While this will generate more renewable energy, it will come at the expense of quality farmland. What role should the county play in balancing the energy needs with preserving agriculture, which is one of our top industries?
Okay. Legislator, you have 2 minutes on this issue of solar farms.
Thank you. Taking land away from agriculture, providing food sources to people is not the right answer. Solar fields should be addressed in other areas. There's plenty of land that cannot be cultured, cannot be farmed, cannot be used to feed our people. And I have never lived in a world where there's been an overabundance of food. There are hungry people everywhere, including right in our very county. So I think what the county should be doing is finding other places to put these solar panels without having to take away from agriculture. Jefferson County recently had fires of these solar panels, and there were poisons leaching into the ground. Conquest does not have public water. Their only water resources are wells. And if we leach poisons into the ground, not only are we destroying agriculture, but we're also destroying drinking water, which is valuable.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale, on the role of the county in the solar farms.
Well, this is very interesting and very close to my heart and everything, because I get contacted by these solar companies probably twice a month minimum, and it's always the same answer that I give them, that I'm not interested, and that's how I feel. And the only other problem is that everybody isn't Ben Vitale, and other people have different reasons for making their choices and things, and so that's up to each individual landowner what they choose. But what the county can do is really limited by what the state does. The state sets these regulations, sets the laws, sets things that the counties, the towns, everybody has to live by. So by saying, what can the county do, it's, we can have resolutions, we can do all kinds of things that say we don't support them, we don't want them in certain areas, we want them in, designated areas where there isn't as much agriculture, or there's land that's probably what I would call marginal land that doesn't have really high production, which I don't mind seeing, but really the county has to live by the state laws and the state regulations, and ultimately in this country, landowners for the most part get to choose what they want to do with their property. So unfortunately, things go on that not everybody is happy with, but unfortunately, we all have to live with it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Harding.
Yes, just as a follow-up, I wanted to ask about what do you think the county should be doing to support agriculture? Certainly there's federal and state initiatives out there, but do you think that the county should be doing more to help out the farms and maybe encourage them to, say, instead of going that solar route, to keep that land and to farm it?
Mr. Vitale, you have 2 minutes.
Probably the most important thing that the county can do is to run efficiently, keep taxes as low as possible, and kind of plan for the future rather than being reactive to everything. So farming is it's a very challenging industry, and it's not like a lot of other industries. So unfortunately, what the county can best do for the farmers is to run efficiently and keep taxes low. Other than that, prices and things are all, most everything that farmers deal with is a commodity. So we're selling everything at wholesale and we're buying everything at retail. So having a good, strong county with a lot of good, supportive businesses in the county to support agriculture is important. It's important to have the implement dealerships. When you have to start going, 30 miles to get a part for a combine that's down and it's sunshine and you can't do anything, that really hurts. So main thing is to keep those support businesses in the county so that the farmers can continue to operate the best they can.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. Legislator, what can the county do to help ag?
The county can actually be involved. First of all, it's very important to keep reminding the folks in the county chambers that agriculture is the primary industry in Cayuga County. The ARPA funds that were awarded to the county, I was involved in conversations about how to distribute those funds. In sitting at the table, I was amazed and quite frankly, incredibly disappointed that there were no asks for agriculture. Nobody came to the table and said, farmers need money, agriculture needs money, and you have ARPA funds. So I reached out to Mark James of the Farm Bureau and said, where's your ask? Please bring to us some requests. We have millions of dollars that are being given away. What can we do for you? And they did provide a presentation, and there are still ongoing conversations about how the funds are being distributed. As far as small businesses, I helped to bring a $500,000 grant to small businesses in Cayuga County for those who lost money during COVID, and we awarded over half of that. Unfortunately, there lacks outreach into the rural communities, again, which is where we need attention. That was discovered in the grant process, and that's something that we need to continue focusing on. So I think just being more involved with agriculture and realizing its importance.
Thank you. Mr. Harding.
For years, there have been questions about the county's management structure. County administrators have come and gone. Now the legislature chair oversees the county's day-to-day operations. Do you support continuing this current model, or do you favor a different approach, such as hiring an administrator or establishing an elected county executive position?
Legislator, I think you're up first on this one. 2 minutes.
Thank you. It's funny because that was also a question the last time that we had this, and we're still talking about it. I think that the voice of the people need to be heard in these rooms when they say, we don't need greater layers in government. We need less layers. We did hire an operations manager, Shireen Androsco. She does an amazing job supporting the county. She works very hard and works long hours, and she does a great job of helping to keep things together. It's not just the chair who is leading these efforts. It's a group effort that includes all of the legislators and all of the folks working for the county. We really have amazing people who work together to make sure that we're doing the right things for the people of our county.
Thank you, Legislator. Mr. Vitale on the setup for the county and county management.
Well, thank you. This has been a long time question, and I'm hoping that sometime in the near future it will be resolved. But as was pointed out, we've gone through a lot of county managers or whatever, county administrators, whatever term you want to use, and that has not been successful. Having the chair of the legislature operate or be the administrator, so to speak, isn't really the best situation either. A number of reasons why. In the past, years ago, when the county chair kind of was the administrator for the county, things were different. We didn't have term limits, and a legislator might be here for maybe 20 years, and that person could be in that office for a long term. That isn't the case anymore. We have term limits. The county chair changes on a very regular basis now. So you have really no long-term stability, which is really, really important whenever you have any kind of operation, especially an operation that's over $160 million. It's very, very important to have some kind of professional person that can kind of oversee that kind of an operation. And at the county, there's probably, from my recollection when I was there, it was like 32 different departments. And for having different legislators overseeing different departments, it just doesn't gel 100%. And that's what we need, is we need a person that is a professional that can make all of our departments work together to get to a focus that the legislature sets as policy and a goal for where we want our county to go to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harding.
Great. Wanted to shift to economic development. The Cayuga Economic Development Agency received $375,000 in the 2023 county budget. After the firing of the agency's executive director in August, CETA is facing some uncertainty. Should the county continue funding CETA?
Mr. Vitale, you're up.
CETA as we know it is obviously not the CETA that we used to know. I'm not on the legislature right now, so I probably don't have the insides of all what's going on right now. But the problem is that when I was a legislator for 8 years, we discussed the $375,000 that the county puts into CETA for economic development in our county, and it was never everybody supporting it. Problem that I always had during that time was nobody would ever come with an alternative. I think we're at a point in time right now where CETA has really definitely faltered. The county's still obligated probably to pay the money that we budgeted, that the county budgeted for that, and to try to get through the rest of the year. But realistically, what really has to happen is there has to be other options on the table that a group of legislators can actually look at and choose what direction is the way to go. Currently, I believe that the IDA is kind of filling in the shoes for the rest of the year, but you got to understand the IDA is a tool that the county uses for economic development. It's just one of the tools that we have. So realistically, there has to be some options that are looked at, and I think we have to move forward. I don't think CETA is the answer at the time. There has to be more county involvement, and I don't really want to see another county department for economic development, but I do want to see more county involvement in economic development in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. Legislator, you're going to get to vote on this one way or the other. So your thoughts on CETA and funding over the next 2 minutes.
Actually, when we talked about giving CETA some funds, I challenged it at the time. There were some questions because, not because there were any questionable issues, it was questions as to how can we best be investing in economic development, and was that the best path? One of the statements that was made is that there is a payback clause or a refund clause in the contract, that if they don't use all of the funds that are given to them in the manner, I didn't review the contract, but that would be returned to the county. I believe that has never been exercised. There has never been visibility to CETA books because they are a private corporation. So that would be one thing that I would find as very important. Whoever the agency would be that would be responsible for managing those funds and the efforts tied to those funds, I think that the county should have full access to everything attached to those funds. The most important thing right now, and I've had questions from folks in the district, is what about the things that have been going on. Are any of our programs going to be interrupted? And the answer is no. You know, we're still working as a county. We are not going to let anything drop off. We're still working to support growth and economic development. We still have committees forging forward to support Micron, and a multitude of folks addressing it from each angle. I'm confident that we're going to do the right things for economic development from the county.
Thank you, Legislator. Mr. Harding.
I just wanted to follow up on this because Legislator Shea has put forth, I guess, an idea to shift that money for CETA over to the IDA. So I just wanted to get both of your thoughts on that idea to redirect those funds, so to speak, to the IDA.
Legislator, you'll have 2 minutes on this subject.
Thank you. Again, the key factor is that we as citizens of Cayuga County are able to have clear visibility to our taxes. We should know, everything should be wide open. We should know exactly what funds are going to be spent where, especially when we're asking somebody else to manage our money. So that would be one of my primary concerns. Are we going to have full transparency? That came up with CETA, and this is something that I won't let just sit because it's out there and it's important for us to know. Without knowing exactly all of the details of how that would look, I can't tell you how I will vote, but I will definitely be talking to my constituents, finding out what they're thinking, what their concerns are, and bringing to them the answers that I get. And with their voices, that's how I will vote for that.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale, on the proposals, we'll call it the Shea proposal.
I guess I kind of addressed it a little bit in my first discussion on economic development. I think the IDA is very, very important. I served on the IDA board for several years. They do some wonderful things, but the IDA is a tool. It's one of the tools that the county uses. It's a great tool too. But in the past, and I don't know exactly right now, but the IDA has always used the CETA staff to do a lot of its work. The IDA does not have a staff. It's a volunteer board, and they honestly don't have the people in place to do the work that has to be done. For a temporary fix, I believe they have hired 1 or 2 people to do the work that they have to do. So that's why I say the IDA is probably the answer for a short term until all the options can be looked at and the right decision can be made. But I will reiterate to the end of the day that the IDA is a great tool for economic development in the county, but it is not the answer to all the questions. So in the meantime, I will support the IDA 100%, and somebody has to do the work that has to be done for economic development in this county. We have to move forward. Micron is coming, and we have to be on board. Thank you.
Before turning to Mr. Harding again, we just want to let you know we're about halfway through our form for District 2, which is a new district being created through redistricting, where the legislature is going from 15 members to 11. The new district, which will include Mentz, Montezuma, Conquest, will also, and Troop, will go into effect on January 1st, and we're delighted to have in the studios with us Lydia Ruffini, Patty Ruffini, who is the Republican candidate and the incumbent in the current third district, as well as Ben Vitale, who's on the Democratic and Independent lines, and they're in the studio to answer questions from Robert Harding, the political reporter for The Citizen. Mr. Harding, you're up.
Thanks, Guy. Since Micron was mentioned, I figured we could discuss that. Cayuga County, of course, neighbors Onondaga County, where that major economic development project will be developed over the next several years. With Micron's planned investment in central New York, how do you think the county and District 2 can benefit from this project?
Okay. And I believe right now, Mr. Vitale, you're up first.
I think we're positioned very, very well to benefit from the Micron the Micron going on in Onondaga County for a number of reasons. First of all, Cayuga County is a great county to live in. We are in close proximity. I live in Cayuga County and I traveled to Onondaga County to go to work for 22 years. It's not that crazy of a drive. Our cost of living in Cayuga County is I think is a much better position than in some of our neighboring counties. So, I mean, those are just a couple of easy reasons. The other thing is there's going to be a lot of other industry that will support Micron. And they don't necessarily have to be right next door to the Micron factory or establishment or whatever. They can be in the surrounding counties, and I think we're in a great position for that. I think one of the things that we have to be able to do in Cayuga County is we have to have a better source of water, and I don't mean a better source, but I mean a more resilient source of water, a second source of water. Water is very important for any kind of development. I don't care what kind of industry. If people are going to be moving into the area for housing and things, it's so important to have water that we can all depend on. And a second source of water with more resiliency is going to put us in a lot better shape to benefit from the Micron development that's going on in Onondaga County. And again, Cayuga County has the cost of living, we have great schools, and this is where a lot of those people will probably end up landing, and we want them here.
Thank you. Legislator, you have 2 minutes on the issue of Micron and the benefit to the new second district.
Thank you. I think that we are positioned well, but we have a lot of gaps. We have broadband gaps, and frankly, I don't know of anyone who would raise their hand and move into an area where there is no digital access. Those gaps have to be filled. In addition to that, we are focusing on housing. There will be housing needs. We're focusing on workforce. There are going to be people who are going to have to be available and ready to perform the right jobs when the whatever the satellite industry or businesses are going to be to support Micron. We do have committees who are already working and focusing on those answers. They are working with Micron. There is not a lot of public announcements being made for exactly what decisions are being made because Micron's a corporation, and they're not going to be sharing all of their important secrets, so to speak, with the general public. However, what I very much appreciate is that our people in the county have already started working on committees, working toward filling the gaps, and preparing for what Micron will bring into the county. We do want people to stop leaving the county, so that is also important. And I think talking to people and telling them how great it is to be part of Cayuga County is important. It's not just about taxes. We have 4 wonderful seasons. We live in a beautiful area. And I can't think of a better place to raise children and to retire.
Thank you, Legislator. Mr. Harding.
Well, since broadband was mentioned, wanted to ask both of you about this. There are various federal and state initiatives to increase broadband access, but there are still gaps across the county. What role should the county play in ensuring that residents in places like District 2 have access to broadband?
Legislator?
Thank you. We have had several grants issued to us to fill those gaps in the county. And unfortunately, there wasn't apparently the right oversight to get those things done. There were things built in places where local municipalities weren't even aware of until plow trucks started striking them. So better coordination would probably be helpful, and I don't know that that starts at the county. I don't know where the right place that would be to start, but a couple of legislators, Jim Basile from District 1 and me as well, have been in contact with the folks who have been working that first part of the process. I think that the people are speaking. They want broadband. We went through COVID and we had children who were supposed to be learning from home without digital access. Our school, Port Byron School, was amazing. They solved the problem. They brought a bus to localities that had digital access. So kudos to them. They did amazing things and solved the problem. But we need to solve the problem finally. And does county oversight, is that the answer? Maybe. Maybe it's more of a coordination. Maybe it's more of speaking out and encouraging and enabling.
Thank you, Legislator. Mr. Vitale, the issue of how the county can be involved in the broadband issue.
Probably the number one thing is to hold the state more accountable. The state has, determined that they really want this. They've had all kinds of grants, but they kind of like drag their feet on really making things happen. And that's what really has to happen. It has to happen. We can't continue to move forward in the 2020s without broadband accessible to everybody. High-speed internet is so important. More and more, I mean, COVID made some amazing changes to our society and to our businesses and to everything that we do. And it's almost impossible these days to work without some kind of internet access, and high-speed internet is probably even more important. So we need to keep pushing the state and holding them accountable. It's unfortunate that a lot of the businesses that are putting this internet in the ground and putting the, making the connections and stuff, some of them are maybe a little bit questionable, and the state has to hold those people accountable too. So it's not an easy answer. We live in a very, very rural area, and it's not like you just snap your fingers and it all happens. But we all have to continue to work and hold people accountable. And I appreciate the comment about our Port Byron School District, because we did solve a lot of the problems, but they aren't permanent solutions. It got us by at the time. And if we want business to expand, that's one of the things that everybody needs. And we have to push forward and hold people accountable. Thank you.
Mr. Harding.
I did want to follow up on the conversation, comment, I guess, a little bit ago about population loss. The county has lost population, as we know from the 2020 census, and so wanted to get your take on how you think county government can help market the county as a good place to live, but also a good place to do business to kind of reverse that trend, go against what's happening statewide.
Mr. Vitale, you have 2 minutes on marketing for the county.
I guess the best way to market the county is to have it a great place where people want to live. I've been on the Port Byron School Board for over 20 years, and when I first got on that school board, people didn't really want to move into the Port Byron School District. Now, 20 years later, our teachers are bringing their kids to that school. People are moving into the district because of that school. And that's kind of what we have to do with the county. We have to make the county so it's a great place for people to live. We already have great seasons. We don't have the hurricanes and the floods like a lot of places do. We are having a few more floods, but it's not like some of the other parts of the country and the world. We have plenty of fresh water. We have freshwater activities, and that's what makes us so great. But we have to fill in those other gaps. Education is very, very important. If you're going to raise a family, you want to raise a family where there's great education. Your kids have opportunities to do a lot of different things. In my talks with constituents and with people in the area, a community college is so important. And as a county, we have to support this college. I'll tell you, we have graduates from Port Byron District that when they go to college, they start as a sophomore. That's one less year that have to pay for college education. That's huge. That's better than getting a tax break. But those are the things we have to make it a really great place for people to live, and activities and those things. That's what's going to draw people to Cayuga County and have people stay in Cayuga County.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. Legislator, how do you market Cayuga County to the rest of the world?
We have a great group that is touting our tourism. Marketing is huge, getting the word out there, bringing people in, and once we get them here, how are we going to entice them to stay? New York State is a tough state, and when people hear you're from New York, you don't always get a smile and a nod. We're notorious for our high taxes. We're notorious for our social programs, which we need social programs, but for some reason we've gotten a bad name because of what we do offer. Social programs, when needed, are great. We have folks who are retiring and we want them to stay here. We can't provide them with the sunny Florida weather all the time, but we can provide them with the safety of not having to deal with hurricanes and tornadoes and the bugs, which are things that we don't all appreciate. If we give them programs, for example, our youth bureau had essentially defunct and was nothing but a pass-through of funds. I was on the committee to bring back the youth bureau, and we funded them with $250,000 of ARPA funds to bring it back. There's nothing for our youth to do out in the rural areas. So we need to bring more programs out into the rural areas. It's not just the city of Auburn where we want to entice people to stay. We want people to see the beautiful green pastures, the beautiful waterways. There are so many things to do, both outdoor and indoor. We need to provide more opportunities in the rural areas, not just for the youth, but also for our seniors if we're going to expect them to stay. And then incentivize people to go to college here.
Thank you. Mr. Harding?
None of the 4 towns in the new District 2 are on Owasco Lake, but 3 of them do get drinking water from the lake. For years, there has been a local effort to update the Owasco Lake watershed rules and regulations. Wanted to ask both of you, do you support this effort? And what role do you see the county playing in protecting the lake for all its users?
Legislator, you're up first on this for 2 minutes.
Thank you. We, I think, have not been doing a very good job. We've been trying to, but it seems that we kind of have run into some blockades. One of the things that we have asked is that there are fresh eyes looked at these projects that are going to ensure that we have fresh water, that we continue to supply these areas with lower cost water instead of raising prices. We also need to have everybody represented to address the water issues. I think that our farmers have gotten a bad rap when it comes to water. They've received a lot of the blame for the poor water quality, and these were the voices that were not fairly represented in these conversations, in these meetings. And that's one of the things that I stood up and said has to get changed. We need to set politics aside. We need to review policies, and we need to really consider what the end game is. It's not about personal agendas. It's about doing the right thing and providing what is essential to life.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale, on water quality in the watershed.
I appreciate the comments that, you know, the farmers get unfairly blamed sometimes. But I'll tell you, one of the things that the farmers can do, the farmers are the ones that take care of the majority of the land that are around these lakes. And if we're looking for solutions, we need the farmers to help with those solutions, and we also need the people that live along the lakes. I mean, there's probably still instances of raw sewage running into the lakes from local camps and things like that. And you know, it's really easy to point to the big guy that has 2,000 cows and saying, oh, all your manure is running into the lake. But that guy with 2,000 cows is probably doing more to protect that lake than some of the other people are doing. And honestly, he has the opportunity to do more. So by working with these farmers, which I think over the last 5 years, you've seen a lot of improvements. You know, 5, 6 years ago, you used to see a lot of runoffs ending up into the lake and things, and that has really cut back. And one of the reasons is because, you know, our farmers are doing the operations that they're doing it differently. We have water and soil group that's really working closely with these farmers. Cooperative extension is expanding a little bit here in Cayuga County so that we can work with more of the farmers, including the smaller farms. So I think we're heading in the right direction, but I'll be honest, and when I was a legislator, I constantly said, more rules and regulations don't always give you the answers. The answers come when people work together, the community, and the people that take care of the land. Without our farmers, who is really taking care of all of our land in Cayuga County? So let's work with the people that have the ability to make the difference.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Harding, and I don't own 2,000 cows. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to follow up on that because there has been studies done, research done that has pointed to farms as contributing to this problem. So I guess where do we find that balance of not, you know, being punitive, and I'll ask this for both of you, not being punitive necessarily, but making sure that we're keeping the water safe and clear of, you know, manure and runoff and other nutrients?
Mr. Vitale, you'll go first, then Legislator Ruffini.
Not being punitive, sometimes you have to be punitive. You know, that's the only way sometimes you get some people's attention. We're not all made from the same piece of cloth, unfortunately. So some people really, you know, there has to be some punishment at some point. But how do you make the changes is, I mean, our soil and water conservation people, our cooperative extension people, our health department, we all have to work together to make the changes. And honestly, the farmers that people want to point fingers at sometimes, they want to do the right thing, because honestly, when you have all this stuff run off your property, run off your land and into the lake, you have to replenish that into the soil. That costs money. People don't understand how much fertilizer and things cost these days. So they want to do all they can to keep those nutrients on their land where they can grow crops and feed their animals so that they can produce the other things that us humans can eat. So there is a huge incentive for them to keep those nutrients on their land where it gives them the most benefit.
Thank you. Legislator, on the issue of farms.
Thank you. It was curious to me as to why the farmers were not allowed to be represented in these conversations. So anytime that we have an issue and we're presented with information, my first question goes to the data points. So are we saying that the primary cause is what's coming off of the farms? And if we are, please show me that data. Show me the change in the data. Has it gotten worse? Has it gotten better? What are the other issues that are causing problems, right? So let's look at it all together. This is what I mean when I say we have to address some of these issues in a bipartisan manner. We have to make sure that we're sharing accurate and complete data. The folks in this room have probably all taken statistics, and we know that we can use statistics, withhold some information to tell our story and to make our story seem right. We have to have the right information, and we have to have the right people in the conversations. And I think that including the farmers in those conversations is critical. If they're not there, I would question why. Thank you.
Thank you. We're down to the last question or two. Mr. Harding?
Sounds good. Well, I'll get into the county's budget process, which is underway for 2024. In my experience talking to local elected officials, no one wants to raise taxes, but they want to maintain or sometimes increase the level of services offered by the government. In the county's case, how do we strike that balance? How do we keep taxes low while also maintaining services for the residents here?
Legislator, you'll have 2 minutes on this.
Thank you. I don't know of anybody who loves the budget process. I know it's an interesting one, especially when you're dealing with multi-million dollars. I come from a corporation where we managed a $4.1 billion budget. And the first thing that we asked is, where can we cut costs? When I brought this idea into the room, I almost got thrown down the stairs. But we do have to look at maybe where we can be doing things more effective, more efficiently. We are not a revenue-generating organization. We essentially are sitting here to do nothing more than provide services and spend people's money. So what can we do to do that better? One thing that surprised me was our county was one of the 2 last counties who taxed heating sources, heating oil, wood. We still had a 4% tax on that. Heat where I come from is not a luxury. It's a necessity, especially here in the winter. So we removed that tax. We've had a higher level of state tax come into our area because we've had a higher number of tourists. So that's good. We're working to increase opportunities for revenue so that we don't have to take it from the people. I think if we just continue to look at what's efficient, and that doesn't mean adding levels in government, because every time you add a level, you're paying somebody something. It's what can we do better? How can we not spend as much? And let's talk across the board, again, bipartisan, working together to get the answers.
Thank you.
you.
Legislator. Mr. Vitale, you have 2 minutes on the county budget and process.
Yeah, I've spent 8 years doing it, and it's different than I've worked on budgets on other organizations, and it really needs to be improved. But one of the problems that I see is when the county starts putting together its budget, so many times they go to the departments and say, hey, what do you want this year? And they give them a laundry list, and then it comes to the legislature, and $3 million over budget, and now you got to make cuts, and really we have to have a county that runs more efficiently. We have to. It's so easy to pass a budget in November or December, and then in March, the legislature will pass a resolution to add another position in one of the 32 departments, and sometimes it's hard for legislators to see that they're actually increasing our budget when they're doing that. They have their heart in the right place, but it's hard to see the financials, how it affects things in the future. And one of the answers that some legislators come up with is spending the fund balance down. And what that does is that sets a very, very dangerous trap for you, because when you all of a sudden are using your savings to do regular operational duties of the county, someday in the future, those savings are going to be gone, and you're going to have your spending up here and your revenue down here. And then all of a sudden, as it's happened in the past in our county, you have a 10% tax increase, and everybody's arm goes up and everything. So you got to plan for the future. You got to be proactive, not reactive, and we have to be as efficient as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to closing statements because just to keep everything fair, each candidate got to answer one of Mr. Harding's questions first, and we'll keep those even. So we're going to end with our closing statements. We're going to hear from Benjamin Vitale, who's on the Democratic and Independent line. He has 2 minutes for a closing. Mr. Vitale.
Thank you. In closing, I think the first thing I'd like to do is talk about the things that I think are very, very important for Cayuga County. And one of them, and two of them together, is this college and our hospital. This college is so important for economic development. If we're going to have development in different industries and stuff, this is the place where we can train those people that are going to be working in those factories that support Micron and the things that they need and the things that will help Cayuga County retain its population and bring new population into our county. The hospital, I have a 97-year-old father-in-law that I live with, and you know, he goes to the VA. He's a World War II veteran. He's a Purple Heart, so we go to the VA all the time, and when it's really, real important, you drive all the way to Syracuse for something, it's not good. You know, they just told them last week, if you're having these symptoms, you go to the closest hospital. Well, for us, the closest hospital is here in Auburn, and we need to maintain that. We need to maintain that for several reasons. If you're getting chemo, if you're getting all different services, we don't have to run to Syracuse or Rochester all the time. We need to maintain this hospital here. The other thing we really need to concentrate and finally accomplish, and I've been talking about this and working on this project since 2006, is a second source of water. We solved the problems in Owasco Lake a few years ago, but who knows what the next problem could be. And without a deep water intake in Cayuga County, in Cayuga Lake, we're asking for another crisis. So again, I'd like to ask for everybody's support. I love being able to give back to the community. I've done it most of my life, and I really look forward to continuing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale. We'll now hear from Lydia Patti-Ruffini, who is on the Republican line, is the current incumbent in the legislature. Legislator, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. The worst sentence I've ever heard was, "How did this happen?" I remember someone in Auburn saying, "We're building a fire department here? How could you not know? This is your neighborhood. How do you not know what's going on?" I know the answer to that question because I was that person too. Not being tuned in to what is going on in my community is probably the biggest detriment to my future, because how did this happen? If you want to keep things from happening in your community, you have to get involved. If you want to make things happen in your community, you have to get involved. Getting involved does not mean spending 100 hours a week doing something. Getting involved can happen on a small level, on a great level, on any level. You ask anyone in a municipality, in our volunteer fire departments, anywhere. Ask them, hey, do you guys need some help? Can you use a volunteer? Absolutely. It's a great way to understand more about what's going on in your community. And attend your local meetings. Attend your town board meetings, your school board meetings. These are open meetings. These are your meetings. And if you don't know what's going on in your community, that's your fault, because all of that information is there just for you to hear, to see. And if you're not representing yourself in those rooms, that's your fault too. Somebody else is making your decisions for you, and that's not what you necessarily want. I appreciate the fact that I have been allowed to represent the people in my district and the people in our county, and I ask for that opportunity again. Thank you.
Thank you. We want to thank both candidates from the 2nd Legislative District, who want to be representing the 2nd Legislative District, for joining us today to answer the questions of Mr. Harding and the press, and wish you well on the campaign trail. And also want to thank you for putting yourselves out there, for you and your families for putting yourselves out there. Not always an easy task. We also want to thank Mr. Harding for his thoughtful questions as usual. We are delighted for the college and the Citizen to continue to co-sponsor these forums, and we'll return, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But more importantly, we want to thank you for watching over the last hour, the candidates for the 2nd Legislative District, and urge you to go out and vote, whether it's on November 7th or when early voting starts on Saturday, October 28th. We'll return this Thursday. We'll have the race for the newly configured 10th Legislative District, which is an open seat with legislator Trish Kerr not seeking re-election. This is in the southeast corner of the city of Auburn. The two candidates are Stephanie DeVito and Michael Pendergrass. They'll be in the studio to hear questions from Mr. Harding. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. We want to thank you for watching. Have a good night and have a great tomorrow. And we'll see you back here in the studio or online, as you'll be able to see, on Thursday.